Hey y'all, welcome back to Yelling at the Screen, presented by Just Awesome Because Productions. Okay, Unrivaled. I so am rocking with Unrivaled. Like, I know it's their first season and they definitely do have some things they need to figure out. They've kind of mentioned it in some of their post-game stuff, but I think it's really been a success. It's not even finished yet, but I think they really have a hit on their hands with this league. Now, of course, the league is structured as a 3-on-3 league. Now, they are doing a 1-on-1 tournament, and I was in no way ever excited about it, if I'm being honest. I was kind of just like, I don't know if I want to see that. I don't really know if that's going to be good basketball. I was really kind of like on the fence about it. Well, now that I have watched it, I am on board. I love the big money prize that everybody's going after and is working hard for. Listen, there's already some upsets. There's already some it is good, y'all. Okay, so and this is where a thing where it's like it's the first season, so I feel like there's going to be some things that they kind of refine going forward. So, for instance, in the 1-on-1 tournament, it is a 7-second shot clock. You do have to clear it out to the 3-point line, which is standard. You do have like a throw it in, like a passing in option, which I think is cool, and I really see the bigs utilize that the most, which is probably in their best interest. And it's first to 11. I'm not even sure if it's by 2. It might be by 2, but it's first to 11. And it's interesting because like by the time these players get to like that 7-8 mark, they are huffing and puffing. And it's even interesting to kind of see some of the strategy as it gets into it, because some of the players, when they kind of get into 8, because they've gone into the paint and gotten, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points. And when they just want to finish it out, and then they can go from 8 to 11 with a 3-point conversion, and they're over there sitting there trying to throw up threes and it ain't working because they're fatigued. It's kind of interesting to kind of see those strategies coming into play. Nafisa Collier was one of the first players to play. I kind of joked when watching. I was like, Nafisa definitely started a league so she can cook everybody. Nafisa Collier is just unstoppable. First of all, let me just say this. As a Liberty fan, I know and recognize that Nafisa is a problem. That woman is a good basketball player. So I'm very happy that the Liberty got their first win and we were able to beat the Minnesota Lynx in the WNBA finals. Say all that to say, Nafisa was a problem. She's a fantastic player. And Unrivaled is putting that on full display every single time she hits the court. Her and the Lunar Hours are still undefeated. And as as a Laces fan, that undefeated matchup, I was so mad, especially because the Laces went on to lose again after that. I was like, man. But yeah, so Nafisa Collier was one of the first matchups, and she won. Nafisa is one of those people where I don't think we talk about enough. Her skill set, along with her her body size, is such a dangerous combination. Like, we talk about bigger players and how, you can just go in the paint and it's like Shaq says, barbecue chicken, sure. But either way, so the 1-on-1 tournament was going on and everything like that. So Nafisa won. It was interesting because Nafisa was the first setup. She was the first matchup, and other players watching that learned from it instantly. And that's such a big nod to athletes, right? When you see someone doing something good, bad, or ugly, you learn from it and you get to implement it into your game. So people saw in that first game how fatigue plays a part, and they started to figure out, okay, how can I use the clock to my advantage? So for instance, like in the games after that, players were passing it to the inbounder, but they weren't clearing the 3-point line, because the shot clock only starts when you clear the 3-point line and then they inbound it back to you. So they were kind of walking all slow to clear the 3-point line. And then finally, when they clear it, get the ball, and then they would kind of waste 3-4 seconds just to catch their breath and then maybe go into their offense in those last 3-4 seconds and then, pull up for a bucket. So even to then, I just think, again, it's the first season. I think a couple things can be adjusted here and there. I don't think it harms the league at all to have potentially a 10-second a 10-second shot clock, so that way if players do want to waste, quote unquote, their own shot clock to get a breath, it could be smart and you can still have a solid 5 seconds of offense. You know what I mean? Now, here is who I want to shout out from the matchups that I saw. Skylar Diggins-Smith. Now, SDS, I have been a fan of hers for a good while. Now, here's my thing. Me being a fan of hers is just like, yo, homegirl can ball. She is a problem. Like, keep an eye on her. You know what I mean? And then I think Angel Reese definitely gave her a lot of flowers in the sense of like, she's an OG in the league when it comes to fashion. So she's always been like that woman on and off the court in the WNBA. But I really feel like Unrivaled is like really re-reminding us. Now I'm gonna say us because I'm including myself in that. Skylar she's one of the moms in the league. And so there's a couple times I remember her coming back and then having a kid. Or like having an injury. So I feel like I haven't really seen Skylar ball like this in a good minute. Even with her on the Storm, like, so I remember Skylar and her in like her Mercury days. And I just feel like I haven't seen this vicious of a Skylar in a good minute. She very well may have been doing it this season on the Storm. I haven't watched a ton of the Storm games this season. And I just feel like the way that roster was set up, she was never really going to fully shine. And that's in no disrespect to her. But, you know, in that roster, you had Jewel Lloyd, you had Nneka Mbumike. Like, just in terms of the other face of the team with Jewel. And then you have Nneka, who was like a big get for the team, and she's a bigger body down in the post. Like, I just never thought that was set up for Skylar to fully shine. Not to say that she didn't do it or she never moments. I just don't feel like it was set up for her to shine. Say all that to say, seeing her play a one-on-one, she played against De'Arica Hamby. Now, if you're unfamiliar, De'Arica is so good that she was actually one of the people that represented USA in the Olympics on 3-on-3 ball. So, of all the people in the one-on-one matchup, I was kind of looking like, y'all really got to look out for DH because she knows how to maneuver the ball in terms of handling, which is kind of the concern you have about the bigger players in the one-on-one matchup. And she also knows how to get in the paint and use her body and go get a bucket, right? And then she can also pull up, like she has an outside shot, you know what I mean? This was the thing about Skylar Diggins-Smith, y'all. Before the ball was even inbounded, like before even the first possession, she is in a defensive stance, locked in. And I think it set a precedent that no one else had set in terms of like, oh, if you want to win, you're going to have to beat me. It was the first kind of like, listen, check up, let's go. And I just thought it was such a beautiful, like, if you're a basketball fan, and so I never played basketball like competitively. I mean, probably since I was like kid, but yeah, I never played it like competitively. But I absolutely did play street ball in my neighborhood growing up. I'm a big fan of basketball, and so to just kind of see someone being like, "Yo, this is a competition. There's money on the line. I'm ready to play." And in terms of the matchup on paper, Skylar was not really. I don't know what the seeds are because I think it was a 4 and 5 matchup. I don't remember who was the higher seed. That matchup on paper is not really in Skylar's favor. And she was like, I don't care. De'Arica's going to have to run me over in order to win. And she came in with a very distinct strategy, which was very defensive minded in terms of like, I'm going to make her go a certain way. I'm going to stop the ball. I'm going to get the possession back and I'm going to go for it. We all know that Skylar Diggins-Smith has a very quick release, and she used that to her advantage to overcome the length of De'Arica Hamby, who was closing out on her, and she got some real quick slick buckets off. You know what I mean? So, man, it was such a good matchup to see. Another one that I thought was really good was Alicia Gray against Jordan Canada. First of all, I have a special place in my heart for Jordan Canada. I can't really tell you why. It doesn't really make any sense. But I've been a fan of her for a long time. I feel like every team that she's on, I'm always rooting for her. She's like the kind of basketball player I really like to watch and I really like to root on for. And Alicia Gray is growing on me more and more and more. The reason why she was never really on my radar initially, Alicia never really played for teams that I was fully like supporting. So I've always seen her play. I know she's a good player and I check up on her and everything like that, but it's never really been like, oh, every single game I'm watching her play kind of energy. Now, say all that to say, so in the WNBA, they are on the same team, Atlanta Dream. And so in Unrivaled, they're on different teams. But watching them play, was very adorable in the sense of they both were extremely familiar with each other, but they were both competitive and were going after each other. And again, you have a smaller guard against a bigger player. I could be wrong, but I think Alicia plays either the power forward or the small forward on her team. I can't be, if she's a guard, people are gonna tear me apart. She's a bigger body, so if she's a guard, Atlanta's blessed. But honestly, Atlanta's makeup, that's a whole other thing, because I think the players on that roster, they should be doing a little bit better, but I think they're doing a coaching change, and I think they're also getting another player. I think there was a big trade. I mean, everybody. Oh yeah, BG. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of trades. The WNBA free agency was whew. But yeah, so anyway, the Atlanta roster, I'm expecting big things from them this season. Say all that to say, Alicia and Jordan are very familiar with each other personally. Like even in the post interview, Alicia was like, "Yeah, that's my bestie." You know what I mean? And so it was really cute because you saw two players who were very competitive and they were going after it. They were absolutely trying to win, but you can also see the familiarity with them. You can also see how they were both kind of doing certain things that could benefit themselves, but also potentially the other person. They were kind of like, okay, it's fine, whatever. And as soon as like the ball was in, you see them going for each other. The fatigue was a very telling thing throughout the entire tournament of matchups. And this is where I kind of say it is their first season. It's interesting to see if they look to refine it in any way going forward, or if it's kind of something where they're just like, nah, get in better shape and deal with it. But I feel like there was only like one matchup I saw where I didn't see fatigue be an element, and it was against, it was Aaliyah Edwards against Brianna Stewart, which was the only shutout of the night and Aaliyah Edwards won 12-0 over Brianna Stewart. Okay, Stewie. Again, I'm a Liberty fan, so Stewie's on the Liberty. I mean, I was a fan of Stewie even when she was on the Storm. I thought the synergy that her and Sue had was super slick and smooth and fun to watch. Stewie. Listen, Liberty won, right, in the WNBA. So it's kind of the tale of two motivations a little bit. So Stewie enjoyed that win, celebrated that win as she should have. As a New Yorker, I'm so proud. Girl, do whatever you got to do to make yourself happy. You know what I mean? And she has said that she didn't really spend her off season as normal in terms of training. In part because, just kind of when you go that deep in a playoff run, I feel like a lot of teams and players deal with this. When you go that deep in a playoff run, you often have to take some time off, just let your body chill out, and then you can kind of rev it back up, right? I think Brianna was kind of expecting / anticipating to play her way into game shape through Unrivaled, and Nafisa, who was in the same finals games but lost in that exchange, took the off season to put in every single type of work to get better, to come and cook the entire league of Unrivaled and the WNBA, and it shows. And I think it's very interesting, and again, this is the first season, so I'm really interested to see what happens next season, because Stewie being rusty, it shows. And that is in no disrespect to Stewie, because we all know the type of caliber of player that she is. We know what she is capable of doing. We know the standards of excellence that she can produce. We're just not currently seeing it in Unrivaled. I feel like we're seeing her get a little bit better more and more in all the matchups, sure, but I think it'd be really telling to see what happens in season 2 of Unrivaled. Yeah, girl, she got cooked, stick a fork in her, cooked. And listen, Aaliyah Edwards, she went for it. Like, you gotta, girl, respect it. She went for it. And someone was saying this, and I thought it was so funny on Threads. They were like, it's like Stewie and Fee did rock, paper, scissors to who's gonna win this season in Unrivaled. And Stewie lost. I mean, in some cases, you can also say that Stewie was like, hey, I took the WNBA, you could take Unrivaled. I don't think at all that that's what's happening, but if they didn't do that, Stewie, you should use that excuse, because, girl. I wasn't looking forward really to the one-on-one tournament. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but now that I've seen it, I'm really into it. I do wish the women weren't as fatigued as they are, but I think that's kind of unavoidable with the type of setup as is. But again, it's interesting to see if they're going to adjust any rules to alleviate that or kind of, lessen it a bit. In my opinion, I think just a longer shot clock would help. I don't really think anything else really needs to be adjusted except for a longer shot clock, specifically because then you as a player can make business decisions in terms of like, am I going to use some of my shot clock just to rest? Or, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's 7 seconds right now. I mean, in my mind, and I know for a fact in the NBA, I believe also in the WNBA, your reset shot clock is 14 seconds. That's what I assumed that they were going to make it in Unrivaled. So when they said 7 seconds, I was like, whew, that's quick. And I think we're now seeing, I don't want to say diminishing of product because I don't feel that way, but you're seeing some quote unquote gamemanship and some smart antics type of things of players trying to find rest in the middle of the game. And in my opinion, just to kind of let players put on potentially their best product, I think adding a couple more seconds to the shot clock so they can just get like a miniature breather just with a natural shot clock, I think that can potentially get better interactions and shots and possessions and even contests. So like a couple times in the Ryan Howard matchup, you saw her hold the ball and you knew like she was going to wait till like 3-ish seconds and then just pull up for 3. And she did that a couple times. And of course, because of the fatigue, she missed pretty bad for a good amount of time. And then when she was playing against Lexi Hall, and then when Lexi pulled off with a couple of points and then was within, a 3-point margin of Ryan, that's when Ryan was like, okay, I got to go all out and I had to defend and all this other thing. So it's kind of just like, you're choosing when you are and when you aren't going to defend because of, I don't want to say because of fitness, but just because of, not tanking. What is the word? Because you're just game management. It's just game management at that point, right? I'm a tennis player, and for tennis, we don't have shot clocks. Like our games are very much built on like the score being the score. You have to go win it. In very few and very extreme cases, I have done like the managing of your body thing. It's very weird to do because you're kind of taught to play hard all the time, but sometimes it's in your best benefit not to go all out so that you have the best option to play your best later on. You know what I mean? And I feel like we're seeing a little bit of that in the one-on-one sequences. So in order for the players to kind of play their best always, I kind of suggest having just a slightly longer shot clock. So again, the player can make the business decision as to whether or not they want to use their own shot clock to rest or not. Okay, now in the Jackie and Rakia Jackson matchup, this was very interesting. On the board, there are already a couple buys in the tournament because of injury. And this was the first time we potentially saw a forfeit in the middle of a one-on-one matchup because of injury. So Rakia Jackson was guarding Jackie in the post, and Jackie ended up going down. Rakia really wasn't sure, whatever. She went in, finished the basket, and then went to go check up on Jackie. You see the trainer come out and check on them. I think Rakia was kind of asking, like, is there an official, like, timeout that we can take or whatever so that she can recover, whatever the case may be. Jackie did end up getting up. She kind of pointed to potentially, like, her groin or her hamstring-ish type area and upper hamstring, and then she kind of finished out the game. Which, listen, respect for her for finishing it out, and also super respect for Rakia Jackson, who's a younger player, to still stay focused and go out and get that win. Because sometimes knowing that your opponent is injured is even a mind game even of itself for you to stay focused and go finish it off. Say that to say, we now have to look at it like, okay, there's already a couple of injuries in the tournament why people are already kind of having some buys happening. And in this case, we almost had an injured player in the middle of a tournament. And this is where I'm kind of going, potentially like a longer shot clock could potentially help and other things like that. Now, someone mentioned this on Threads. I wish I knew the person's name so I can shout it out. But they were saying that potentially for Unrivaled for next season, there should potentially be like a pod of players as reserves that can be selected by any team at any given time if they need relief players. And I love that concept because there has been some injuries going on through Unrivaled already. I believe one of the teams had to forfeit because they didn't have enough players to compete. And to that, it's just like if you already have a couple of, like maybe you have like 4, right? If you already have a couple of players at the ready that are already like along for the journey, yada, 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 they're play ready. And then it's just like, when you need another person to suit up for any given team, they go in for any given team. You know what I mean? I think that's a beautiful concept to get someone else to kind of like how you do with the All-Star. Like you have the reserves. So it's like, this person wasn't picked initially, but they're able to play and have all the experiences because someone else was injured. So again, it's the first season. It's interesting to see what decisions they do make for next season. I'm enjoying Unrivaled so far. Their 3-on-3 matchups are really fun. I'm loving the all access to the players. I'm loving the kind of, the camaraderie, the little jokes, the hooty hoos of the owls and everything like that. It's a really, really fun league. It's doing what it's supposed to do, keeping our players in America. They're WNBA players that play in the States, so they can also play in the offseason in the States and still make money and also work on their game. And I think it's working, and it's really, really fun. As a fan, I'm super enjoying it, and I cannot wait to see the next matchups. Okay, y'all, remember, keep your yelling respectful. Bye.